The November council meeting. I'm going to call it to order, and in honor of Veterans Day, we are going to return to having the Pledge of Allegiance. And I actually have a flag here that I'll hold up. So, and if everyone who's participating virtually, or we're all participating virtually, if everyone in the public could also join us in the pledge. But I wanted to tell you about this flag. It was given to my family by a friend who was a captain in the Pennsylvania Air National Guard. This flag was flown on an EC-130E Commando Solo aircraft during a combat mission in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. It was flown in the Persian Gulf region on April 19th, 2003. So I thought that might be appropriate. So I'm gonna do this. If we could all stand up, and if you're wearing shorts, we're gonna know. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
of the United States
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
under
God, indivisible, liberty,
and justice
and
for all.
for all.
Thank you all very much. All right, roll call. Bonnie Bentz.
Here.
Richard Guerin.
Here.
Alyssa Packer.
Here.
Carl Schultz.
Here.
Aaron Vroman.
Here.
Zach Williard.
Here.
All right. Did everyone get a chance to read the minutes from the October 14th meeting? Any changes? May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Make a motion.
Second, Bonnie, did you second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we're going to jump right into public safety. Mark, I moved you under public safety since that seemed to be where you usually gave your report.
Okay. Are we doing public comment or?
Oh, sorry. It's not on my minutes. Sorry about that. I apologize. Julie, do we have anyone who would like to make a comment? And if you would like to make a comment, hover over the participants at the bottom of your screen and find your name and raise your hand. Thanks, Mark.
Sure.
Those people, those members of the public who have their video on, we try to turn off the video, but if you're able to turn your video off, that would be great. That would be a big help to Julie, who's turning it off individually.
We have a lot to scroll through tonight, but I do not see any hands.
Okay, I'll give you another 30 seconds or so to take your time and make sure we don't miss anybody.
And just to be clear on the videos, the reason we turned that off is not that we don't want to see you, it's that we were Zoom bombed the first couple of times that we did this. So we're trying to avoid that.
I don't think Bruce Bigelow was planning on doing that, but you never.
Yeah, I know.
Juliet, still no hands? Okay. All right.
Wait, there is.
Oh, wait. Yes, I know Dr. Regal had a comment, and I think she has a thumbs up, and she has been emailing us, so she did have a public comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Regal. So,
Hold on. Julie's going to unmute her. And there we go. Yep.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I think that the hands up function wasn't available on the side. So ladies and gentlemen of the Borough Council and of Camp Hill, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. My name is Dr. Genevieve Regal, and I have been a resident of Camp Hill for 38 years and an American citizen since birth. I come before you tonight to commend Camp Hill Police Officer Tricia Mensch, who was very professional and considerate when called to my property because of an unfortunate incident on Tuesday, October 20th. I was very impressed by her responsiveness and respectful conduct. On this day, 2 women drove around and parked at the back of our house. The 2 women came to the back door of our property unsolicited to complain about political signs displayed in our front lawn. And both of these women were unknown to me. and took offense at the signs. One of the women proceeded to tell me how important, wealthy, and powerful she and her husband are in this area. The woman identified herself by name and warned me that she knows many important people and has great influence over what occurs in this town. I asked if she was threatening me at my own home. Her parting words were, "Why don't you go back to the country you came from?" Once the women had left, I immediately called the Camp Hill Police Department, and Officer Mensch responded. Now, at the time, I was working from home alone, and I felt threatened and intimidated on my own property in my own home. I've never had a racially motivated confrontation quite like this before in my entire life. And Officer Mensch was sensitive and professional in her response. Officer Mensch listened to me, was empathetic and kind, all of which made me feel safe and protected in our community. We are very, very grateful to the Camp Hill Police Department, and the exemplary professional conduct and quick response reflects the mayoral leadership of Mayor Mark Simpson and Chief of Police Stephen Margison. I am here today to personally recognize them and thank them for the positive police presence that their leadership and office oversees. Neither of them were intimidated by the unfortunate racism that exists in our own Camp Hill community today. So during such uncertain times, I am here to voice my support of the Camp Hill Police Force and thank them for their racial sensitivity, excellent diversity training outcome, and outstanding community building. I am so very proud to have the Camp Hill Police Department protecting our community. Officer Mensch has reinforced my hope in building a more diversified partnership between law enforcement and Pennsylvania minority communities. So I come before you today to pass on my gratitude and recognition to Officer Mensch and her superiors. Thank you so much for your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Dr. Riegel.
Riegel.
Bruce Bigelow has his hand up, so I'm gonna lower that, ask him to unmute.
Chief isn't on right now, I don't think, right? I don't see him on.
He unfortunately is under the weather, but
Okay. But Mark, you'll have to let him know.
yes, I definitely will.
And yeah, and this is being recorded, Dr. Riegel. So when it's posted to the website afterwards, the chief will have a chance, as will Officer Mensch, if she's not on the call, will have a chance to hear those words. And we really appreciate you sharing them. And I think, you know, if I could just add here that we do have a human relations council, you know, that formed a few years ago to address, you know, these types of issues. So I think that's something that's worth considering, and we will certainly, I think we should be considering.
Yeah, we can follow up with Human Relations Commission, and if Dr. Riegel wants to get in front of that group, that might be a good idea. All right, Bruce Bigelow.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a neophyte at this, so when you said hands up, I was yelling and I didn't know I could press something else. Okay, I reviewed your packet of materials for today online, and I was looking specifically at the budget information, and I noticed specifically that for the street paving program for 2021, it is proposed $0 for that program, and then in the next line it says $625,000 to be put into a reserve fund. I presume that that's why the program was zeroed out. I just want to raise some warning bells here. I know that it says a 1-year only deal, but I just want to point out, and there's several members of this board that may not have even been in the borough at this time, but about 13 years ago, I attended a public information meeting chaired by Council President Burke McLemore. At the time, there was a proposal to raise our taxes by 100%. And the reason for that was because In the previous 6 or 8 years, I can't remember, in order to make sure there was no increase in the taxes, that the street paving program was zeroed out about 6 or 8 years in a row. And by the time that we needed 100% increase in our taxes, the roads were in terrible shape. So I just want to warn you, not warn you, but I want to raise the warning bells that hopefully this is, if you're going to go through with this, is only a 1-year deal, and not continue on down the road and zero it out every year until we get into the same situation we were in 13 years ago. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Julia, do you see anyone else waiting?
I do not see anyone else.
Okay. All right. We'll have a time at the end for a second set of public comments if anyone has any additional comments. All right. Aaron Broman, Public Safety.
Let's start public safety with our mayor's report.
Okay, thank you. The full report's in your packet. The Campbell Police Department, the officers handled 629 calls in the month of October. Beginning of November, we welcomed our newest police officer, Nathan Sellers. So hopefully you'll get an opportunity to meet Nathan. So far, so good. So we also, in October, we held 4 Coffee with a Cop events, and we're in the process of scheduling more events in the remainder of November and December. We're also going to implement a police officer trading card program, and this is it's pretty cool. They're little baseball cards, but they'll have the police officers on them and a little tidbit of information about each on the back. And we did this a pretty long time ago, and it was a hugely successful program. The kids loved it, and it just gives them an opportunity to interact with the police officers. So we're looking forward to that coming up here. The fire department, we ran 333 calls in October. We spent 78 hours on those calls. Coming up, we are going to be taking Santa around town beginning the Monday after Thanksgiving. That's the 30th. We will not be handing out candy. We will be posting the routes on our website, Facebook page, and we strongly encourage you to come out and see Santa, but we also strongly encourage social distancing when you do. I believe that is it. Again, Dr. Regal, thank you so much for your kind words for Officer Mensch and your support for the police department. We really, really appreciate that. And thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything else on the agenda under public safety tonight, but I did want to just mention, in light of Dr. Regal's comments, which I do appreciate, we have been updated many times by the mayor and Chief Margison about the ongoing trainings and the regular trainings and additional trainings that they're adding into our police profiles. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm pleased with how the police are connecting with our community, the students, and so that we can all grow together. I also wanted to note, for council's sake and the general public, in our last public safety meeting, Mayor and Chief did come to the committee about park hours once again. The concern is that we have parks that are unlit at night. And right now, our ordinance says that parks are open till 11 p.m. But when there is a park that is pitch black, it has become a public safety issue brought to me by the chief of police and the mayor of our town. So we do want to discuss this further. And I do ask that for our December meeting, our solicitor draft an ordinance to reflect all unlit parks to adhere to a dusk till dawn closing time, while lit parks remain open till 11 p.m. For the safety of neighbors and attendees at the parks, all residents of Camp Hill and guests. So this is going to be talked about in our Parks and Rec Committee at the end of this month. I believe it's the 24th. It's a Tuesday. I'll be back in Parks and Rec, so I'll reiterate that. But I wanted everyone to get a heads up on that, so it wasn't a surprise. And that is all I have for public safety tonight.
Mayor Simpson, Coffee with the Cops and Cornerstone Coffee, correct?
Cornerstone and Starbucks as well.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we ended up in the right spot. All right, thanks, Aaron.
Yep.
Frank, Borough Manager's Report.
Yes, first off, to follow up on Aaron with the park closure notices. Lee, do we need a motion tonight for authorization to advertise? Notice of intent to advertise? Notice of
Yeah,
intent to pass a.
I was going to suggest we do a motion to authorize advertisement of an ordinance along the lines that Aaron laid out, and then I'll have that crafted, ready for review by the committee and for Borough Council at its next meeting.
That makes sense, Aaron. That'll save us a month.
Okay.
And we'll keep it very simple to those 2 hour changes.
But is this still up for discussion, or are we?
Well, I have to make a motion, right?
Correct.
And then we can discuss.
Has your committee discussed it
No,
yet?
I mean your committee. Didn't you say your committee is going to discuss this and then you're going to come back to us with?
No, the Public Safety Committee has discussed this, and we wanted to bring it to Parks and Rec and then to the council. So that's where I'm at. I thought we were going to bring it forth to council next month and then vote to advertise for the new year.
So you wanted to have the recommendation of both committees as opposed to just one committee before
Yeah, and I
bringing it
wanted
forward?
to, right, and I wanted the council to have ample awareness of it.
Okay. So I don't think we need to vote on anything tonight.
I plan to vote next month with an ordinance in hand.
To advertise.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, vote to advertise.
Got it.
Yeah, if
An
that's the,
ordinance that
if that's the
Lee
timeline you
sent in.
envision, we can hit that. Yep.
Yeah,
So, but question, so are we going to discuss whether we feel that it should apply to all parks or just one park, or because it seems like the complaints are specifically regarding one park in particular, aren't they?
I'm requesting an ordinance amended to reflect dusk till dawn at unlit parks.
Right, so the discussion will be next month when they bring it forward.
And you're on Parks and Rec, Bonnie, so we'll talk about it at.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about
okay.
it at Parks and Rec.
All right. Okay.
Not all parks, unlit.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Frank.
Yep. You know, the big things, we have a media agenda tonight. We have the borough budget, which that Zach is going to present shortly. Police agreement with Alyssa coming up. And Bonnie's going to touch base on Penn Waste outreach to us. The one thing I did want to mention to council is that Mike Oxer and I found some paperwork that apparently the borough was successful in winning a grant in 2017. It's a 902 grant. It's for recycling purchases, any kind of purchase for machinery, equipment that enhances the recycling effort in the borough. The grant was open in 2017, but upon purchase and acquisition of the equipment, we actually had to submit the paperwork and a form certifying that we took possession of the equipment and made the purchase in an amount. We never did that, but we still have time. We have until March 5th to submit the paperwork. We already got from Ray the invoice. I think it was for about 120,000 with a 90% match. the reimbursement to Camp Hill Borough is going to be about $106,000. So, and essentially all we need to do is submit a form and the invoice for the purchase of the equipment. And likewise, for our calendar year 2019, the borough did not submit for a 904 performance recycling grant. So that's in the neighborhood of $20,000, I believe. So again, our contact at BEP provided us with all the information we need and the timeline, and so we're all set to go. But I really got to give a hats off to Mike Oxer for stepping up in the public works role. But being able to dig out this paperwork, which was critical to us being able to hunt down this $106,000.
Yeah, he just found that in the office, like in the,
Yeah.
in the desk, right?
Yep.
That's good news for budget discussion. So good job.
Yes. Yep.
Thanks, Frank.
That's great news.
And that is my report.
All right, thank you. So speaking of budget, finance.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with item 1. I'd like to make a motion to pay the checks for November 2020 in the amount of $1,748,295.09.
Second.
Second, yeah.
Any questions for Zach? All right, I'll call the question then. All those in favor of payment of checks in the amount of $1,748,295.09, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, so for item 2, I'm going to share my screen and pull up a PowerPoint that Frank had put together. That work?
Almost. There we go.
Okay. So for the budget, should I make a motion first or should I go through the presentation?
Why don't you do the presentation since it's longer than I think just a regular question and answer kind of a thing.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go through this PowerPoint. This is a short PowerPoint that's very high level. So just some recap for the public who's on, the budget process really starts in Camp Hill all the way back in August. We had 3 budget meetings that were open to the public. Then from August until the first council meeting in October, the Finance Committee had a number of meetings that were, mostly budget related through the Finance Committee. And then at the October council meeting last month, Pat gave a PowerPoint presentation. It was a little bit longer, kind of went through all the specifics of every fund. Okay, so we did that. And then what happened after that was council then had a hard copy of the draft budget. We had 2 budget meetings in October, or I guess one was actually last week in November. So 1 October, 1 November budget meeting. So now we've kind of arrived at the final draft budget, I'll call it. So tonight we're going to quick roll through the high level discussion on that. And then, Bruce, I think we'll answer your question either here or in the next topic. And then what we'll do is we'll vote to move forward with the advertisement and putting the budget out for inspection. And then we would, in theory, then vote on it at the December meeting to be the final budget. Okay, any questions about all that, council? Everybody's good? See, so if I click here. Okay, 2021 budget presentation. So the main point, and Pat highlighted this back in October, the goals of the budget this year are to maintain services to residents and businesses and to have no increase in the millage rate and the taxes. Okay, so we're able to do that. So that's the good news. How do we do this? We're going to keep a sharp eye on expenditures this coming year. One thing that we've talked about a lot over the last couple months, and really we've hit on this a number of times throughout the last 2.5 years, but I think we're going to finally get to it, is we're going to start to have budget to actual reports, at least on a quarterly basis to start. Okay. Especially given, kind of the environment we're in now with COVID, we need to see how revenues are coming back versus projected. And we've also had higher than, normal legal costs the last year or two. So we want to keep a closer look at all that. So that the plan headed into 2021 is we're going to have, some updates on budget to actuals. Okay. Because we have not been doing that. The second bullet here, move costs to where they belong. This year in 2020, we created the Stormwater Authority. Okay. And the Stormwater Authority was meant to take on the stormwater projects and the administration of all those duties and take that away from the general fund budget. Okay. So that's happened, and the Stormwater Authority is up and running and working on a number of projects, as we speak. And then, the final piece of the puzzle this year is, how are we going to balance the budget headed into next year? The budget is, what I would call a conservative budget, hopefully, meaning that we lowered some revenues due to the ongoing pandemic and kind of the uncertainty that surrounds those. We increased line items for legal expenses because we're not sure how, some litigation that we're going through is going to continue to go. So, and hopefully we can kind of come in with revenues that are, normal and not impacted by COVID and lower than expected costs. But right now we're conservatively budgeting into next year. So we're going to need to use transfers from the general fund reserve and the sewer fund and the liquid fuels to balance some of these line items. So here are the highlights on the general fund revenue. Again, there's a lot of things happening that we talked about the last couple months, but here's the main ones. So we reduced the revenue for real estate taxes and earned income tax. Again, that's specifically due to COVID. Okay, as well as a reduction in the cable franchise fee. So, right there, $320,000 less of revenue, on paper for next year. I think it might even been a slightly higher than that on the EIT. So, that's obviously a hit, and hopefully we do much better than that and maybe, come in right at normal. General fund expenditures, some highlights, 14,000 reduction in salaries, 16,000 reduction in parks and rec, $90,000 increase in police protection, $6,000 increase in public works. And, the large one was $150,000 increase in the legal expense budget. All right. So that's on the expense side. I'll admit this person. I don't know if you guys can see that. I think I'm the host now, so I'll admit them. So the total general fund expenses of $5,940,832. Total general fund revenue plus transfers of $5,941,124 ends up with, on paper, a surplus of $292 next year. We know that that's not exactly what's going to happen. We'll have to go through the year and see, how this all works out, because the budget is a living document, as Frank keeps referring to it, and it's fluid. But I think, next year, the plan is to keep a closer eye on the budget throughout the year. That's kind of the theme we've been repeating, versus just talking about it, when we get to budget season. All right. I think that's it. Any questions from council? I think we did exhaust the budget process this year. This was the most meetings we've had, at least in my last years.
If there's no questions, then Zach, if you want to go ahead and make the motion to advertise the budget, then we can vote on that.
Okay. Okay, great. So I'd like to make a motion to advertise the 2021 budget.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of advertising the 2021 budget, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we are advertising. And Zach, that's going to be also available at the office if anyone wants to come see a printout of it, correct?
Frank, there's going to be.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yes, that's available. That will be available at the office.
Okay. And then on the website, of course.
Yeah, it's also, I think it might already be on the website, but if it isn't, it will be.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, great.
Thanks, Zach.
Okay. So moving on to agenda item C, fund balance policy discussion. So this is another item that we've been kind of kicking around since, pre-August, but more since August. We've talked about it in depth. And, in looking at how the boroughs performed the last year or two with, I think costs coming in again over budget, specifically legal and, some engineering. We've just had really busy last couple years with projects and with other things. So, we have had, some overspending going on in the budget, which happens. And as we look at this, we draw on reserves, the borough's reserves to do that. And right now, the way the borough's reserves are is they're kind of all in what we've been calling it a checking account. And so that's how we pay all the bills every month. And that's also where we keep our savings account. It's kind of commingled. So what we've been talking about doing is creating a separate reserve fund. So not where we would pay our normal monthly bills out of when we approve those each month and what Ray does. This is going to be a reserve fund in the sense that it's reserved and that we're not going to just pull money out of it to spend it. If we were to pull money out of it and spend it, it would be an action of council. And it would be for some very specific purpose. It would not be just because, we needed to spend an extra $10,000 on something. This money will sit here and, give the borough cushion and comfort and help to maintain, a good credit rating. And, give us the ability to go through the year, next year, the following years, and, not be worried that, COVID continues, and if litigation continues, that we could, run into any type of problem. Okay. So the fund balance policy, we're not voting on tonight. This is just a draft that was sent around, is meant to, target a goal dollar amount that we would have in this reserve fund. And we've been talking about creating one for the general fund and one for the sewer fund. Now we have a number of different funds, but we're talking about starting just with those two funds. All right. Now Bruce's point, he brought up that in the CIP, for the last, I think 8 or 10 years, we've paved $600,000 worth of roads each year in the borough, which is great. I mean, it's nice when the residents can see, how the money's being spent, and, roads are a good thing to keep in good shape. Well, so after some discussion through these different budget meetings, it was determined that, for 2021, we were going to take 1 year off of paving, okay, just 1 year, so that we can use that $600,000+ to help fund this one-time transfer to help fund this reserve. Okay. And, we did ask, well, what roads were on the list for next year? Is it okay if we wait a year and not pave them? And, we were told that there's no roads right now currently in the borough that are in such awful shape that they couldn't wait a year to be paved. All right. And also given, that we're in this environment of COVID, and when we do pave roads, it comes with sidewalk replacements and curb replacements for residents who are on those streets. So, I think everyone having an extra year to not have to worry about those types of replacements in this environment is, also not a bad thing. So that would be, what we talked about previously. That would be how we would be able to have a one-time large funding of this reserve fund in the general fund. Okay, so that kind of one-time cash infusion would really help. And then, what we've talked about is targeting $1 million for this reserve number. The remaining money needed to fund that reserve would come out of, again, the borough checking account. And we're going to wait, until later this year. That's why one of the reasons why we're not voting on it now is there's no rush to do this tonight. We can easily wait till December or January. But as we get closer to the year, we'll be able to figure out how we finish the year from a budget to actual basis. And then we can make sure that it is, a good idea to take money out of that checking account and put it into this reserved fund. We wouldn't want to, move money that we can't move and create a cash flow problem. So the timing of this is good, that it's at the end of the year and we're passing the budget now, and we can kind of see how the year ends up. And then hopefully we'll be able to put that money in there. The real quick highlights on the policy are just the dollar amount that we're talking about. So a lot of times these are done as percentages. So, after looking at other townships and boroughs and things like that, what we came up with was the general fund reserve. We would try to keep that within a range of 15 to 25% of the revenue in the general fund. So right now, if you talk about a general fund of approximately 5.2 million, that would be a range of $780,000 to $1.3 million in that reserve fund. That's a significant amount of money. That's the kind of money that when you go into a pandemic and you're in the process of litigation, you need to have a large reserve, and that would get that done. If you had $700,000+ in there, that would give you a good cushion. And in the sewer fund, we kept the same percentage, 15% to 25%. Now the sewer fund, the revenues are about 3.2 million, so it's smaller. That would be a range of somewhere between $480,000 and $800,000. Okay. So that's the highlight of the policy. We tried to make the policy very simple. It's a page and a half, and we tried to skip using, no offense, Lee, but legal jargon and things that people don't understand. It's supposed to just be simple so that anybody can read it. So I know you've seen a draft of it once or twice already. I'm sure you've read it in detail many times. So just give it one more look before we get into the December meeting when, we'll potentially be voting on it.
Zach, I have a question.
Sure.
Is there any reason, or is the 15 to 25% like a high and low cap, or at least a low cap? And is there any reason we would go below 15%?
Yeah, well, so good question. So 15% is, there's something called the GFOA, and it's kind of a national group that gives guidance to local governments, and they recommend I think 15% as a good number. Now they deal with a lot of large budgets. Our budget as far as other local governments is concerned is small. 5.2 million is not a large budget. So when you're talking about 15% of a large city or a large township, that's more of a significant number. So we tried to create ours with that being the minimum, but we did go higher up to 25%, again, because, $5.2 million budget is not, kind of typical for the people that the GFOA serves. So that's why the range is there. Now, if we did drop below the 15%, so let's say next year we had something come up and we needed to fix a roof quick or whatever the problem was, if we drop below that, we're out of sync with our own policy. We're not in, and Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, Lee Stennett, we're not in violation of any law or anything like that. It's simply that we're not keeping with our policy. But the main point is that in order to draw that money and use it, it has to be a conscious decision of the majority of council to do that, I think is kind of the main point.
And I did notice on that second page, it does say to have a proposal to replenish the reserves. But I'm just curious, savings accounts are great. Savings are good. They help credit and they help in case of emergency. Is there any reason, I guess, is there any reason we don't have it now to then have it, I see as a good thing? I don't know why I'm questioning this even.
Here's
the drop in funds.
Are you worried that 15% is too high? Is that your point?
No,
are there any downsides to this?
Yeah, or is 15%, I'm just worried about dipping into it too much. That's what I'm worried about. Like, to have the savings, because I'm a big fan of savings. So once we have it, to dip into it with, and I see that we're supposed to have a plan to refuel it or replenish it, but I don't know, it just seems very open.
Well, it's not meant to be dipped into. It's meant to be dipped into when you need it. The example, I think we're like the living example is 2020. If the borough was not in strong financial position that it's in, lots of towns and schools and boroughs around the state this year had to do what's called a cash flow borrowing because they didn't have reserves. And when COVID hits and you have less revenues coming in than what you expect, and if you had, let's say, litigation going on, that's like the perfect storm where if you don't have ample reserves, you're going to be, you're going to be down the river looking at, problematic solutions, not nice solutions like using, your reserves to float you for the rest of the year. So, I mean, I think this is kind of the year that shows why it's important for local governments to keep reserves because you have these unknown things that can pop up. I mean, the typical unknown thing would be, like I said, you have some sort of a roof problem or something like that. And you need to do something quick. Global pandemics weren't why fund balance policies were created, but I guess that's, another.
Hopefully they're only every 100 years.
Yeah. Hopefully another item to consider. I don't know. Did I answer your question? Not really.
Vague. I just, I think I'm questioning just it's so loose. I don't know what the point of this looseness is. We could just save money, but I mean, I get it.
And the way we're doing it now, I think is one step looser, where we just have all of our money in the checking account, and we pay bills in and out of there. And I mean, I even asked the question a number of times in our finance committee, well, how much money is actually available right now? And the answer was, well, we're not sure. We'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Because
so this is like a step above.
Yeah, this is
the
like
way we're operating.
Right.
Okay.
Sort of like a Christmas club, if you think of it that way.
Yeah.
Like say you lay $25 or $50 a pay away. So it's locked in the bank. It's direct deposit. Ray takes it out. And that's fine. That's where it is. It's there and you can have access to it, but you only tend to go after it if you really need it. And then it forces you to stop, to think, and then say, okay, well, if I do this, I'm not going to have as nice a Christmas, or the kids aren't getting X, Y, or Z. But it forces you to stop and think. It's like a break.
Right.
It's not locking you out of those funds, but it's making you do a deliberate approval of council in order to have access to the funds that are yours.
Okay.
That makes it harder to get to. Is that right, Zach?
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm thinking about it.
Because my understanding, Zach, is like, for instance, right now we talk about our reserves, but they're only reserves at the end of the year when we know how much money is left after paying all of our bills.
Right.
So this is actually truly will be a reserve fund. So when we want to know how much are in our reserves, we know how much are in our reserves. Because everything else is in the checking account.
Correct.
Well, over the years, we get the report every month on our fund balances. So, I think we've had visibility to that. The good news is we have had ample reserves, that is more funds on hand than we expect to expend each year. But I fully support this move because it just makes it more formal to say this is our rainy day fund. I mean, that's really all it is. And instead of intermingling it with our day-to-day operations, it's segregated, and we have to be more deliberate to tap into it.
Yeah, and I just think this timing is, the borough's been in great financial shape from past councils, so thank you. But just this year with all this different stuff going on between COVID and other things, we have a lot of projects constantly going on. It makes sense to have it this way. It might not have needed this previously.
I just want to, for the record, I'm all in on this reserve fund. It's more the rules about the fund that are my questions, because I'm a big fan of rules and there's not many. So the rule of majority council approval for any reason to use it. Okay.
Well, one thing you have to pay attention to a little bit is when you create a reserve, if you make it too restrictive, when you go to, talk to banks or to do a borrowing like we've done, recently, the refinancings that we did earlier this year, they count it against you if it's a very restrictive reserve fund. You know, they want you to save money, but they want you to have access to it when you have a problem, not have it be too complicated that you can't actually get to it. So this is, you know, kind of in the middle, I'll call it.
Thank you.
All
And
right.
again, you know, this is meant to be a one-time funding of this, and then hopefully we don't need to spend it, and then we can go back to continuing to pave the borough.
And just
Also,
go ahead, Erin.
sorry, also on the paving and Mr. Bigelow's comments earlier, we do have other funds we're able to use in the event that there is a street or a pothole or a serious repair that needs to be done. So it's not like we have $0 to repair streets in the entire budget. I just wanted to point that out.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh,
We have the liquid fuel. We have the liquid fuels fund, so we won't be without funds if we do have a street repair that needs to happen that year.
Yeah, good point. So if there's any other questions or thoughts, if not, again, we're not voting tonight. This was just a discussion. Everybody okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right, Bonnie, Public Works.
I had to unmute myself. So the first item for discussion is our changes to the cemetery rules and the columbarium application. Did you all receive those or have a chance to look at those, or should I share my screen?
I've had a chance to read them. Has everyone had a chance to read them? Yeah, go ahead.
What? Okay. Yes or no?
No, I don't think we need to share a screen.
Okay. So briefly, the Public Works Committee has been discussing the idea of adding military medallions to the columbarium. And we decided upon, yes, we should allow them. And there is really only one size that appropriately fits in between name plates on the columbarium. So what was added to the application when somebody is applying for one of the squares at the columbarium is on that application was added if a person intends on applying for a veteran medallion, and that's a yes or no. And then if yes, it asks that the applicant submit a very specific form, which then is used to apply for a veteran's medallion that we are approving be used at the columbarium. And then it also indicates that if the medallion is attached after the installation of the name plate, that a $100 fee will be applied for later attaching the military medallion. So that is listed on the application. But then also for the cemetery rules and regulations, what was added was a definition of the medallion, and also also added to the rules and regulations were kind of pictures of how the medallions would be added to the square section that the person is now going to be the owner of. So when there is just one nameplate on the square, on the niche, the nameplates currently are horizontally in a row across the columbarium on each niche. So we want to keep those nameplates in that nice horizontal pattern. So when there is just one nameplate, the medallion would be centered underneath that nameplate. If there is one nameplate that has two names on it, like a husband or a wife, and both of them served in the military, then there would be two medallions underneath each of those names with the one nameplate above, even though it has two names on it. So the name on the left would reflect the first name, or the medallion on the left would reflect the first name on the nameplate, and the medallion on the right would reflect the second name if there were two medallions. And then the other option is where you have a niche where there are two nameplates. And so there would be one on the top horizontal row, there would be one nameplate on the bottom horizontal row. And then if both of them had medallions, service medallions, they would be centered between the two nameplates, one on top and one on bottom. And again, the medallion that would be on the left between the two nameplates would be associated with the name above. The medallion that would be on the right would be associated with the nameplate below. So that is laid out. The only thing that is missing was a footnote that we added to the instructions, which you will see on the redlined document that Frank sent out, maybe like an hour and a half before this meeting, just so you could easily look at the changes. The Public Works Committee suggested that we add a footnote where it says the medallion on the left will correspond with the first name and the medallion on the right would correspond with the second name, just so that the person that is applying to be an owner of the niche and who is submitting an application for a medallion will understand how the medallions are going to be placed on the columbarium. And then there was also an extra line that was added under floral adornment and decoration. This would be section 7 of the cemetery rules. Item number 6 was added where it says no floral items, keepsakes, or decorations may be hung, draped, and or placed on the top sill of the columbarium or on the plaque or medallion contained thereon. So Public Works does a great job. People do put items there, and eventually Public Works does have to clean it up. So it's just to let people know that we recognize, people do bring things, and Public Works eventually probably will clean it up, but they are sensitive to people's desire to put something there in remembrance. So it's not an immediate cleanup, but it's just something that was added to the rules to assist Public Works when people are wondering where things went. So are there any questions?
Hey, Lee, to make this, if the council's so inclined to make this the latest rule, do we need to accompany it with a resolution, a simple resolution, or need it be an ordinance?
Lee, you sent something out earlier today, didn't you? That we were going to vote on for the cemetery?
No, that's the ordinances for the stop signs and the no turn sign that are a little later. We can, as these are the rules for the cemetery, we can do this by a motion and vote by council.
Okay. All right. Bonnie, why don't you make a motion to approve the additions to the cemetery rules? We'll get a second and we'll see if we've got any questions.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the modified cemetery rules, and also a motion to add that footnote that identifies when there are two medallions, who those medallions are associated with in terms of name plaques.
Is that all in one motion?
That is one motion.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Bonnie? Okay. All those in favor of the amendments to the cemetery rules and the updates on the medallions, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
All right, thank you. Lee, would you mind getting me a clean copy of that, the latest version as modified by Bonnie tonight, and we'll make sure it's distributed to the staff. Thank you.
Will do.
Okay. And Lee, just to let you know, I'm not sure if you were on the Frank, did you send the redlined document to Lee?
Well, Lee sent it to me.
No, the one that you just sent out to council before the meeting.
Yes, I believe
Yes.
I copied Lee on that. Yes.
Okay,
He
good.
did.
That little addition is in there. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just add that one note on that you added to the red line I did, accept all changes and send those to Frank for distribution.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next item is just an informational update for all of you regarding Penn Waste. Penn Waste's contract is coming due for renewal. I believe it is March 31st next year. And so they came to the borough with some proposed extension amounts for the next 2 years. Public Works really hasn't had an in-depth discussion about this yet because we did have some questions for Penn Waste, which we are waiting to hear back about. But let me just give you an overview. So right now, Penn Waste, as well as many other waste companies, are having difficulties in pricing. Their reasons were they're having trouble with CDL driver shortage because they don't have enough drivers out there that are licensed to drive the trash trucks. They also have a large turnover of laborers. And of course, when you mix in COVID-19, they're having a hard time keeping their staffing levels level without causing service interruptions. They also have an increase, they said a dramatic increase in their equipment costs due to new emissions and computerized technology that is now on the trucks. So all of that new technology increases their maintenance costs for the trucks. Their insurance premiums continue to increase in the range of 10 to 20% annually. Recycling, I'm sure many of you know, the market has collapsed back in 2018 due to high contamination levels. There's less people, less commodities willing to accept recycling at much lower pricing. So the pricing for recycling has increased. And also Cumberland County Disposal, the incinerator, costs in the past 3 years, the pricing has increased by approximately 30%. So their offer, currently right now, our quarterly rate for trash is $42 and change for each resident. Their proposed rate is an increase of approximately $20 per quarter per resident. And then in the second year, the increase would go up to approximately $23. So next year, they would recommend a $61.50 rate, and the year following, it would be $64.50 rate per quarter. So this is not good news. Also, for those individuals that don't pay a quarterly rate in waste, who prefer to purchase bags that Penn Waste provides to our borough to sell, year one, currently the bag rate is $4.25. Year one on the proposal, the rate would increase to $7 per bag. And year two, the rate would increase to $7.35 per bag. So they did provide us with a chart that indicated the municipalities around us have already been given their new rates. Hampton Township's new rate is quite higher than ours. They currently are going to be paying $25.26 a month. So multiply that times 3, that is their quarterly rate. So we are still, or would still be lower than them. We had a couple of questions outstanding for Penn Waste to return to us, and Frank did ask questions, assuming that we would, if we decide to agree to these 2 extensions, he did ask them some questions as to whether there would be any resident services that they could provide. One of which was, having paper recycling days where they come and shred paper. And then I think there was, Frank, if you can tell, another thing was Public Works said it would really help out Public Works with regard to having dumpsters or cans.
We asked them to waive a $10,000 fee that they charged.
Yes.
And really, Bonnie, you can take this back to your committee and you guys can really get into the meat of it, and I guess decide whether we want to accept it or whether you think that council should put it out for bid.
Okay.
And see what the other waste have.
I mean, my reaction to that, like, since you're bringing it to council here before your committee has considered it, I guess, is like, I would want to put that out to bid. Like,
yeah.
I don't think we need to take a proposal like that and just accept it.
Right.
A 50% increase is astounding.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
We are kind of in the middle of where everyone else is. It's a lot. But Bonnie, I would suggest that you take this back to your committee, and then at the December meeting, come back with what your committee recommends, and we'll act on that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
The only positive thing I'll add there real quickly is, for the last 12 or 18 months, we've been paying a lower fee. They had asked the borough to increase fee about 18 months ago, I think, because of all this. And, we wouldn't budge on that. So, we have gotten a break there anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And if, if we end up meeting, we'll see where everybody else is, and we'll decide.
Right. I just want to add, just for your information, that I did check Dairy Township, which is like Hershey area, and they use Waste Management, and their quarterly fee they are currently paying is $62 a quarter. So I'm thinking we might get some opportunities with going out for proposal, and we might not. So yes, we will take it back to committee and discuss.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take it back to the committee. I would just like to, put this before we move on, that we don't have a lot of ramp room here. The current contract expires at the end of March. If Penn Waste is unwilling to go forward with any kind of extension, we're shorthanded. I mean, putting out an RFP, developing an RFP, putting it out usually takes 4 to 6 months. So I'm just putting that out there, letting you know what the lay of the land is. Things are tight. There has been outreach over the past 6-8 months to the borough. I think they were unrequited. So this is where we are.
But we could sign up for a 1-year contract. I don't know if Bonnie said that or not.
Right. Didn't it say there's 2 1-year extensions?
Two 1 years.
extensions.
Yes.
I'm open to that.
Are those extensions called for in the existing contract?
Yes.
Okay.
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 Yeah, we'll report back.
All right. So before we move on to the engineer's report, which is pretty long, I just wanted to comment and say a big thanks to Public Works Department, who coordinated with Davis Landscaping. They did plant the trees and arborvitae, et cetera, around the compost facility. And I have already heard back from neighbors, which I did forward to Mike Oxer today, that they are really very pleased with the results of the plantings. It will provide a really nice buffer for them from the view from their homes. So that's really good news. So just want to check that one off. All right, engineer's report. I'm going to start with the request, and we'll make a motion, and then for each one we'll have Mike provide some input here on what's going on. So for the CCTV pipe inspection contract, making a motion to request approval of application for payment number 6 in the amount of $22,678.92 to Pipe Services Corporation.
Second.
Okay. Mike, do you want me to add to this the second item under this, or can this one be a standalone?
This one could be a standalone.
Okay. So do you want to tell us about it?
Sure. Pipe Services Corporation has an open-end contract with the borough that was bid last year to provide on-call as-needed services to televise pipes and also perform smoke testing. Smoke testing, if you're not familiar, is a technique. It's a diagnostic technique whereby the contractor will blow smoke into a manhole and basically see where it comes out. See if it comes out in another manhole, see if it comes out in a clean out somewhere or somebody's downspout. It might suggest that something's connected to the sanitary sewer system that's not supposed to be. So it's a diagnostic tool, and it's they performed this under a work order in the area of the current sewer contract and Creek Road Basin, which are two areas where we have suspicions and have data that there might be some I&I, which is infiltration of non-sanitary sewer water into the sanitary sewer system.
To be clear, it comes out of your roof, which I discovered, which scared the crap out of me.
Well, if your downspouts are connected to the sewer system, that's where it comes out. We hope
Wow.
not, because they really aren't supposed to be connected. But that's exactly the kind of result that smoke testing does generate that steers us to where there might be an issue.
And you do let people in the neighborhood know that that's happening in advance?
Yeah, we do, because having smoke coming out of one's room can be very disconcerting. So we do post those ahead of time, yes.
There's a couple minutes of panic, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They also have someone in the neighborhood while they're doing it.
Right.
They'll have a posting there with the truck just to let you know, and then people can come out and ask them questions as well. They still tend to call 911 and say my basement's filling up full of smoke coming out of their illegal sump pump hookup, but they are guys, folks are there so they can ask questions. I just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, this is a big issue in town. There's a tremendous number of people with stormwater or rain spouts are directly into the street and not where they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be 8 feet inside your property line to get in the ground to swell. I mean, it's amazing how many go straight in the street. I think the majority do.
Any other comments?
Okay, I guess we need to vote on this one before we go to the next one. So all those in favor of the CCTV pipe inspection contract application for payment number 6, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
Okay. Next, for the 2019 pump station improvements contract, I'm making a motion to request approval of application for payment number 7, which is the final payment in the amount of $22,985.60 to Monocacy Valley Electric Incorporated and subsequent closure of the pump station improvements contract.
Second.
Mike.
This is the final payment for the pump station contract that was largely built last year at Apple Street, April Drive, and November Drive pump stations. That job has been sitting at substantial completion status for quite a while, waiting for a few last items to be addressed by the contractor. There was some grass area that needed to be seeded and established. There was some issue with one of the alarms going off on one of the pumps when it shouldn't have. And then we also had to get some paperwork from the contractor for their closeout documents. COVID didn't help. I think that kind of delayed things for a few months, but this is long overdue. The work that's being requested here is mostly just the retainage. There's a 5% retainage on the contract value that's held until the bitter end, and a little bit of grass growing. So that's it. Should be the final payment to get that one closed and all cleaned up.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, all those in favor of payment for application payment number 7 to Montecito Valley Electric, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. 2023.
All right, Mike, should I do the next 2 items under the 2020 paving contract together, or do you want them separate?
I think that they should be separate because the number in the second one depends on approval of the first one.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so for the 2020 paving contract, I'm requesting approval of change order number 1 in the amount of negative, is that correct? Negative.
Yep.
Negative $29,929.82 to reconcile the final installed quantities with the bid quantities.
Second.
Whenever we do the paving contracts each year, it's a unit price contract where we will take field measurements and bid the job for so many square yards of pavement, so many linear feet of curb, and so on and so forth. And the contractors bid on it, and the low bid is awarded. When it's built, those bid quantities inevitably work out to be slightly different in the true construction quantities. Sometimes they're a little higher, sometimes they're a little lower. In this case, there was a little lower. There was just slightly less area of paving to place than was initially estimated. So this was a change to the good, and we see no reason not to approve it.
All right, any additional questions for Mike? All right, all those in favor of the deduction in change order number 1, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Zach?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that's a nice change. Next one.
Okay, second, for the 2020 paving contract, I would like to request approval of approval of application for payment number 2, which is the final payment, in the amount of $348,599.17 to JVI Group Incorporated, and subsequent closure of the 2020 paving contract.
Second.
Not much explanation on this one. The paving contract is done. The contractor has submitted all their documents. The $348,599.17 number reflects the deduction that was approved in the previous motion.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Okay. Next, for the 2020 pavement marking contract, I request approval of change order number 1 in the amount of $3,699.14 to reconcile the final installed quantities with the bid quantities.
Second.
Thank you.
You may recall that this year we bid paving and striping separately to try and eliminate the paving contractor's markup that we had been seeing on the striping work. So this is the same area, the same contract that was covered in paving, but this is just the striping side of it. It's the same type of thing that I described earlier, except in this case, it goes the other way. We did slightly more striping than the estimated quantities as opposed to less, and that came out in the amount of $3,699.14.
Very good. All those in favor of change order number 1 in the amount of $3,699.14, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Okay. Next item for the 2020 pavement marking contract, I'm requesting approval of application for payment number 2, the final payment, in the amount of $25,116.15 to D.E. Gemmel Incorporated, and subsequent closure of the 2020 pavement marking contract.
Second.
Thank you.
The striping contract is also complete at this point, and we have all of the contractor's paperwork. The number that Bonnie just indicated reflects the change order that was approved in the previous motion.
All right, thank you. All those in favor of the final payment for the striping contract to DE Gemmel Inc., please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, Challenger Baseball.
All right, for the Challenger Baseball project, I'm requesting approval of change order number 1 in the amount of $2,706.41. This change order includes additional topsoil to smooth the grade transition between first base and right field. It also includes a time extension to allow for turf grass establishment and procurement of the bases.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Thank you.
The description Bonnie gave is pretty much the sum of it. When the contractor put in the new Dymatex material at the grade specified, there was a slope between first base and right field, which extends out into the soccer field, that we felt would be not optimal considering the use of the field being primarily for children with disabilities. We thought that it would be beneficial to stretch that grade transition out a little bit longer to make a smoother playing surface. So that required the contractor to bring in a little bit of extra topsoil. I will note that the contractor voluntarily installed the clay bricks under the batter's box, which was not in his contract. In fact, that was something that we value engineered out of his contract in the effort to kind of bring the cost down. The contractor, just knowing that that's standard practice for building a baseball field, went ahead and did it anyway. So I think that's a nice offset to the additional topsoil cost, and the additional topsoil makes for a smoother transition and a better playing surface. The time extension aspect of it is because we're at the end of the growing season, we want to wait until the spring and to make sure that all of his grass comes up. And because his supplier is unable to ship him the bases right now, and that's a COVID-related supply chain issue that we're seeing come up in a lot of weird places all over the construction materials industry.
Yeah, it's crazy. Good explanation. Any questions? Okay, then I'll call the question to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $2,706.41. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, for the Challenger Baseball project, I'm requesting approval of application for payment number 1 in the amount of $90,732.27 to TR Stoner General Contractor with a remaining balance of $13,815.38.
Second.
This is not the final payment application. The next one probably will be. The contractor is very close to being done. In fact, we had an inspection a few days ago, and we're going to deem it substantially complete, but he's not at final completion status yet. He's to roll out the sod, take care of a couple of little grade transition issues, and fix a few minor things. So we think probably next month there's a possibility we'll be all done. But for now, it's just a progress payment that'll get most of the way there.
Okay, all those in favor of application payment number 1 in the amount of $90,732.27, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay. Before we go on to the next one, Bonnie, my report says resolution for these signs. I talked to the solicitor this morning, and he corrected me that it is in fact an ordinance and not a resolution, that the borough handles it that way. So I apologize for that, but want to make sure we get the language right when it comes to a motion.
Correct. And just to clarify, these were advertised as ordinances of Borough Council as is required by the Vehicles and Traffic section of the Borough Code for Camp Hill.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So for the 19th and Chestnut Pedestrian Refuge Island, I'm requesting approval of an ordinance to post a stop sign on Chestnut Street at the subject intersection pending the results of the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you.
This is in association with the 19th and Chestnut Island project. We looked at the traffic patterns there. We looked at the pedestrian movements there, looked at pedestrian counts that had been submitted with the traffic impact study for the 1801 development, and found kind of a surprising volume of traffic coming to the Market Street intersection northbound along 19th. So thought that that would merit an additional crosswalk to get pedestrians across 19th. With that cross, and also because there's new sidewalk going in there with 1801, so we'll give them somewhere to go. In conjunction with that new pedestrian movement, though, there was a safety issue that if cars on Chestnut Street did not stop, they continued free flowing and made the left-hand turn onto northbound 19th, there could be a conflict with pedestrians using that that new crosswalk. So we felt that in combination with kind of the unique geometry of that intersection and the long crossing time for pedestrians to get across Chestnut because of the angle, that it would warrant a stop sign to make that an all-way stop intersection.
Okay. And Frank, we would have a public hearing. Would we have it like next month before the December meeting?
Lee?
Yeah.
Are you talking about for the ordinances?
Well, it says pending the results of the public hearing. I'm trying to
Yes,
figure out.
that was also on Mike's report. Basically, we're starting to move the borough more to complying with the exact requirements of the borough code. You're not required to have a public hearing for every ordinance. So we're trying to save you guys a little time and not show up at 6 p.m. and then adjourn a meeting, and just streamlining some of those things a little bit and moving away from prior practices.
I think that was my bad. I think I had a procedural error in there, so my apologies.
All right.
For Lee's judgment on the procedure here.
So there will not be a hearing, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So then
we'll just be discussed during public comment prior to the meeting, prior to us taking action.
No,
Well,
And when are we
today,
taking action?
we're
today.
voting right now to put the stop sign up.
Okay.
In that event, because I was under the impression from the agenda that we would have a public hearing, so should we open to public comment just in case there are people here for that? Just my thought.
You can, sure.
How about this? Can we table this? Then can we talk about the second one so we can open it up after both of them?
Okay.
Red. So let's table this. Bonnie, let's get into the second one and then we'll have a quick public comments and then we'll come back and finalize.
Okay. So I'm going to get rid of the pending portion of the motion, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So for the Creston Road right turn restriction, I'm requesting approval of an ordinance to post a no right turn sign along Cumberland Boulevard at the intersection with Creston Road.
Okay. Second. We need a second for that.
Second.
Thank you. All right. We're going to table both of those. We are going to open up for public comment only for these two motions that are on the table. Julie, let us know if you see any raised hands or waving hands.
Lee, do you want Mike to explain this one first before public comment?
Let's see what we've got.
Oh, okay.
Bruce Bigelow has his hand up, so I'm going to lower his hand.
And Julie, if you could unmute Bruce.
Just did, sorry.
All right, Bruce, go ahead.
Okay, as some of you know, I circulate my summary of Borough Council meetings to a number of people in the borough. I got one feedback on the proposed stop sign at Chestnut and 19th Street. They were all in favor of it because they had tested that they had been almost hit twice by people not knowing when to go and not to go. And so they were all in favor of it.
Good to hear. Any comments regarding Creston Road? Okay, Mike, why don't you?
There is a comment regarding Creston. Chris Latham has her hand up.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi. I just would like to know if the other direction, can you turn in? So if I can't turn in to Creston Road coming from Harrisburg, because you're going to put a sign there, the other direction, is there a sign saying you can't turn left coming from the Giant?
No, because there's an island there.
Okay, so it'll just be for one way.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know.
All right, good question. Thank you. All right, Mike, do you want to, I'm sorry, anyone seeing any other hands before we go back to Mike? All right, thank you, everybody. Mike, do you want to give a quick update on that? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We all understand it.
Yep, you recall there was conversation and some brainstorming about various ways to improve visibility for pedestrians who are walking in Creston Road, which does not have a sidewalk. And those pedestrians are hard to see for people turning right in from Creston. We talked about all kinds of different options. Ultimately, we decided this was the least impactful, so this would be a good one to try and see if that alleviates the concern. There are perhaps other tools in the toolbox to use in the future, but thought that this would be a good first step. There are in our recent HATS grant award new curb ramps and crosswalk also slated for this intersection, but that's coming in the future. This was one that was immediately actionable.
Okay. All right, does council have any questions or comments before we go back to Bonnie's motions that are currently on the table? I'm specifically talking about the stop sign at 19th and Chestnut. All right, hearing none, then I'll call the question to request the approval of the ordinance to put the stop sign on Chestnut Street at the intersection of 19th and Chestnut. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that motion carries. The second motion that is on the table is to request the approval of the resolution to post a no right turn sign along Cumberland Boulevard. All those in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
I had one quick question. Can I ask a question about that one?
Yep.
Like, I can't remember. So with the stop sign going in, was there any striping going in on that shoulder? Because that's going to be a shock to a lot of people that there's all of a sudden no right-hand turn there. I couldn't remember what we talked about doing.
You're talking about at Creston, the no right turn?
Yeah.
There's not striping on the shoulder because we couldn't stripe the shoulder and keep enough width for two-way traffic. And when we discussed it at the Public Safety Committee, there wasn't the appetite to restrict it to just one-way traffic yet, thinking that we would do the right turn restriction first and see if that was satisfactory.
Well, I mean, the shoulder coming off of 15. You know, where you,
Talk about the crosswalk. Is that what you're talking about? No.
well, we did have I know we had a crosswalk.
There is to be a crosswalk there when we implement the work for the HATS grant. That's going to be a little while. There is not striping proposed on the shoulder for the bypass.
Okay.
We had to get PennDOT approval because that's a PennDOT road, and they were only willing to approve the sign without the additional striping. There is, just as a related matter, an existing sign there that says "Do not block intersection." That's going to be remounted. So that signage is also in place.
You know, when we put up a new stop sign, we put up a flashing light for 30 days so people can get used to it. Can we do something like that for the no right turn?
If it were a borough road, I would say yes. If it's a PennDOT road, I have to say that we could only do it with PennDOT approval. PennDOT's very funny about flashing lights, or I'm sorry, flashing signs, because they deem them to be traffic signals, not signs. So I think that's going to be at least a long term to get approved, and ultimately it might be a no from the department.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mike? Alrighty.
Does this take effect? 30 days?
The Public Works Department has the sign in hand, and they're the ones who are going to post it. So they're ready to post it as soon as this board approves it, if they approve it. As far as how and when enforcement ramps up, maybe that's something that the mayor and the chief of police can discuss a little bit of a grace period or a soft start to enforcement there to give people a little bit of time to get used to it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Call the question to approve the resolution to post a no right turn sign along Cumberland Boulevard at the intersection with Creston Road. All
Just
those,
a clarification, that's the ordinance.
thank you, ordinance. All those in favor say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Bonnie, is that it for you?
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Carl, business and community relations.
All right, thank you, Lee. Thanks, everybody. This will be pretty quick. There is no downtown coordinator report, as you might expect. And for the streetscape, we have a meeting scheduled this Friday from 1 to 3. Our engineer, Gibson Thomas, reviewed the plan with us back on October 30th. They took the feedback that we all gave and incorporated that into a revised plan. So they will walk us through the revised plan. They'll also cover costs, and they'll cover how we can look at this and maybe make some adjustments so that we can meet the budget figures that we currently have for this project. The plan, the actual, diagrams and so forth are actually on the website and have been for a while, so you can take a look at that. They do have a revised slide presentation that shows, the details of the different elements that go into it, give a picture of, a little better picture of what it'll look like when it's completed. And I'll get that out to everybody tonight or tomorrow. We'll put it on the website, and I have to say it looks really good. I would encourage all of you to take a look at it. There's a lot in there, and I encourage you to take a look, not so much to get into all the details of it, but you look at one slide, you look at a bench, you look at lights and all that, but I think it's good to just skim through the whole thing, take a look, and you get a sense of what it looks like all together. So on Friday, and it's at 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock for anybody in the public who's interested in attending. The presentation will be, I'm promised by Gibson Thomas, 30 minutes. I'm going to ask everybody to hold questions and discussion so we get through the whole thing. Then we have the picture, and then of course we can discuss, answer any questions, and take any additional feedback. So that's what we have. Look for the materials. I'll get that out to everybody, and it looks really good. Look forward to the meeting. Thank you, Lee.
And Carl, we have the Candy Cane Walk coming up too, on November 22nd from 12 to 4. So everybody get in your pre-Christmas shopping done.
Indeed.
On that day. All right, thanks, Carl. All right, Aaron, Parks and Rec.
Okay. I wanted to note a few things if Audrey didn't want to go ahead with it herself, but she has been very busy and has put together a very exciting parade of lights in Seabrook Park on December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Is that correct? That's correct. Yes, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It's the first weekend in December. It's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evenings from 6 to 9. It is a car drive through Seabrook Park for any groups, clubs, or businesses in Camp Hill who are still interested in decorating a space in Seabrook Park, either with a stationary float or other such lit schematic. They can contact the Borough office and Audrey Logar to look at the guidelines and fill out a registration form. And our deadline is this Friday, November 13th. So please contact Audrey ASAP and attend on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, because it'll be cool. Recommended donation of an unwrapped toy is part of the Toys for Tots Parade of Lights in lieu of our standard Market Street Toys for Tots parade. It'll be really cool. So that's a really cool pivot for 2020. The other thing I wanted to note is that we have 3 openings on the Recreation Commission for the next 2 years, so 2021 through 2023. Audrey, please correct me. Are there 7 seats on the commission?
There's 7 residents, yes.
Okay, and this is a volunteer position. It is non-political, but we do ask for a cover letter and resume sent again to Audrey Logar, ALOGAR at camphillborough.com, or call into the borough office to speak with her or drop off your cover letter and resume by December 1st. So you have a couple weeks still to apply if you're interested in becoming more involved in the borough in some capacity. It's a 4 meetings a year to help coordinate the seasonal activities and events, and it's a lot of fun. I do want to say our costume contest for this year at the Halloween parade that we were not able to hold, but we did hold a socially distanced costume contest, and it was awesome. And Audrey did an amazing job at setting this up in front of the firehouse, in front of the Borough Hall, and at different times. It was really fun. The DJ was awesome. It was the best Halloween music I've ever listened to. And we did a lot of fun dancing, and the kids had a great time. So all of our sponsors were amazing. Everyone's hanging in there with us, and Audrey's done a really impeccable job of moving forward. Did you have anything to add, Audrey? Did I cover it?
You're good.
Okay.
I just hope everybody comes out for Toys for Tots.
I think we are. There is an event on Facebook, and it is roaring. So tell your friends and family. It is not just Camp Hill. It is, regional wide. Yeah.
What about the sign that's right there at Siebert, the long horizontal sign? Can we advertise the Parade of Lights on that sign?
We're actually talking to the committee. We decided to do a sandwich board one that's going to be on Market Street, which we already have made. Instead of spending, because the one along the bypass would be several $100s, and the committee decided that they thought that wouldn't get as much visual because it's the way it's located. They didn't want to. They thought we shouldn't spend the money on that. Spend it on one on Market, and then just get out a lot of press releases. And some TV stations have already reached out, so I'm hoping that they're gonna, get it out there.
Great.
And there's still plenty of room for light displays, correct?
Yes. I've heard from several more today from the high school, so I'm excited. Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. So spread the word, everybody. Friday, we'd like to have everyone registered who is going to set up a light display. So we're all organized. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, I thought.
There's a request.
Well, yes. So there is a request on the agenda from Lynette Perchie on behalf of the Earl Besh Project, seeking council permission to hold a 5K in the borough on October 30th, 2021. Lynette and the Earl Besh Project did hold their first Trick or Trot 5K run on the 31st this year of October, and it was sold out and a resounding success. And they, I just wanted to say that Earl Besh Fund is supporting 45 families in Camp Hill Borough, which includes 108 of our students, with things as simple as a snack after school to personal hygiene and winter coats and turkey Thanksgivings. So the Earl Besh Fund has been resurrected about 3 years ago. It's been amazing. Their first 5K was amazing. I'd like to make a motion to approve a request to have permission to hold another 5K in the borough on October 30th, 2021.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Aaron about the 5K trick or trot? All right, all those in favor of the trick or trot, October 30th of 2021, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. Anything else, Aaron?
Let me just look really quick because I thought there was. No.
Okay. All right, Richard Guerin, Planning and Zoning.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Item 1 was the month report. It didn't get in my packet. Hopefully it made it to the website so people can review it if they want to. Item B is update on the zoning revision and saldo revision. Chris Miller and Frank, jump in if I say something wrong. We're gonna do the saldo first. The Planning Zoning Committee finished the work. It's been sent to our County Planning Commission and the Borough Planning Commission. It's on the website. We each have a copy. Any feedback from the residents, please send the borough manager. Same for the council, send the borough manager, he'll pass on to the committee. Our timeline hopefully is to get past both the county commission and Borough Planning Commission, and it comes in front of vote for council at our January meeting. Second one would be the zoning revision. So we had the ad hoc zoning revision committee. We're working through everything, and you should all receive late this afternoon a copy of a tentative map of the new zoning codes. You should also receive a tentative usage for each of the zoning codes. We're looking for feedback from both the public and council on it. This is a fluid document we're working on. We have 2 more meetings set to go through it. The meetings are set for the next 2 Monday evenings at 7 o'clock at Borough Hall. Our goal for the same thing is to get a finalized draft in front of council for review for advertisement at our December meeting for passage in January. Also, we'd like to see on the Planning Commission's agenda the text amendments that council approved back in September, and it went through the County Planning Commission, went through the Borough Planning Commission, and hopefully it'll be available for us to vote on as soon as possible. Chris, Frank, anybody, did I miss anything?
No, I think you did a pretty good job there.
Yeah,
That was a good summary.
What questions have anybody had?
Virginia, both Virginia and I will be attending the county's meeting as they review the saldo, which is coming up, just so you know.
Our planning commission reviewed the majority of saldo. The only new part is the lighting they have to review. We didn't change the other sections.
Right.
I would just ask Lee Stinnett if we're correct on the timelines there. The 230 days, and do they run consecutive?
The saldo is 45, the zoning is 30.
Okay.
But our goal, Lee Stinnett, the soonest we could adopt would be in the January council meeting.
For the saldo, correct.
And so we hear back from the Planning Commission for the text amendments. Their meeting's next week, and the county already approved it. Can council approve those text amendments, adopt them in December?
That is the hope. And we'll work with the Planning Commission to try and get those moved.
Terrific.
And Lee, is it correct that I recall hearing before that because we have these things in motion now, that there's a legal doctrine that somebody who comes in with a new proposal would be subject to those? Did I understand that correctly?
The pending ordinance doctrine for subdivision and land development plans, it is the ordinance, the subdivision land development ordinance in place at the time that the application is submitted. So if a land development plan were to be submitted now, next week, or anytime before January when the new saldo is approved, it would be reviewed under the current saldo as it exists today.
All right, thank you.
All right, Richard, thanks to you and your ad hoc committee. It's a big undertaking, and you guys have been good.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
in the late change that was made to the zoning map that was sent out to council today, it looks to me like there was an error in reversing a CHO area and an LDR area. In other words, it looks like the colors are incorrect in the what would that be, southwestern corner of Camp Hill.
Just send.
So I just
send an
wanted
email
to,
and we'll take care of it.
okay, I just wanted to highlight that.
And that's case like a Charlie sent out, the consultant sent out a new one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Richard?
No, thank you. That's more than enough today.
Yeah, it was a long meeting last night, but it was good. Okay, personnel, Alyssa.
Oh, I can't hear you.
You need to unmute yourself. Uh-oh. Hold on, let me see if I can unmute you.
He gave me permission to unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got kicked out and I had to come in and I didn't have permission again. So I would like to bring to council our collective bargaining agreement. You had it included in your packet. We have negotiated, Lee, myself, and Mike Miller, our special labor counsel, have negotiated with the police union a very good contract, and we really appreciate the union representatives working with us on this contract. And so we have that included, and we would like to vote to approve that tonight. So I would move that we approve the collective bargaining agreement tonight.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, any questions for Alyssa? We had how many meetings, Alyssa? We had 3 meetings with the union reps from the police, really good, positive meetings. And I think both us and the police union are pleased with.
Yeah, I think both, made some compromises and we reached a really fair contract as a consequence.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so with no questions then, all in favor of approving the collective bargaining agreement with the union, please say aye and raise your hand. Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, thank you.
Okay, and the only other thing I wanted to mention is I wanted to give everyone on council as well as the public an update on the processes in place that we will have in place for searching for a new borough manager as well as a new public works director. So the personnel committee met to discuss this, and we will be investigating the possibility of using a headhunting service that's similar to the process used for Chief Margison's hire. So we are currently going to be requesting proposals from a few different headhunting firms. We'll be asking them about the types of services they can offer, how they would plan to develop a market, where they would advertise, what criteria they would use to screen candidates and so on. And based on those proposals, we will decide if we want to move ahead with any of those firms. And if not, we will develop an ad, we'll develop an ad and place it, a public ad ourselves. But our hope is that we can, recognizing the importance of this position, we would like to use the expertise of a headhunter consultant to help us find the best borough manager that we can to fill this position. So those are our thoughts on that. And we would bring that to council. Obviously, if we went with a firm to help us, we would have to bring that to council for a public vote to move on that. With the public works director, we want to move as quickly as possible. It's an important position and we want to fill that. We planned, Frank has already helped develop a job description for that. And we plan to advertise in a number of different professional publications. Frank, can you remind me what are the different places that we plan to put those ads?
Sure. One would be our own website. Also, the Capital Region Council of Governments has a job site. The Pennsylvania Municipal League has a jobs junction, and the Boroughs Association and the Township Supervisors Association, PSATs. So there's a number of online places that we're going to be going.
So we have that job description. Frank has that job description mostly developed. We've looked it over, and we are planning to post that shortly. And we will look at what the applicant pool looks like, and start the process of interviewing as soon as possible. Any questions about that?
Alyssa, I just have one question. Have we ever used, have in the past when we've hired new managers, have we always just done an individual search ourselves?
Yes, we have.
That's my understanding, and my understanding is that we have not had a very deep applicant pool as a result.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. All right, Richard, we had a meeting scheduled and then we canceled it. So I don't know if you have a report.
Nope.
Okay.
No report.
All righty. Okay, comments from council. I'll just go down the list of names from roll call in no order. So this is comments from council. Bonnie, any comments?
No comments.
Richard.
Only comment I have, I appreciate the comments and the resident came to speak about the unfortunate incident that happened at her house. And I was glad to see the great response from our police department and the kind words she had for Officer Munch. That's it.
Alyssa. Actually, oh.
I do not have a comment.
I was going to come back to you. Carl Schultz.
No comments. Thank you.
Aaron Vroman.
I always have comments. I just want to thank everyone for attending tonight. I saw at the beginning quite a few new names on the list, and I appreciate you hanging around, showing up, asking questions, and making comments. I also want to remind everyone that Santa's coming around the Monday after Thanksgiving, and you can follow the Campbell Fire Department on Facebook or their website to find out what the route is. It's the most fun ever. I pull my kids out of the shower for this, and they're 13. So I also want to mention that the next Parks and Rec Committee meeting is November 24th at 7 p.m. Thank you, Audrey. And that will be the conclusion of the year for us. And I look forward to our next council meeting on December 9th. That is all.
All right, thanks. Zach.
No, just thanks for bearing through, a lot of budget meetings. I know they can be a little yawny, but we got here. So thanks, everyone.
We did get here. Good job. All right. This is the time for the second period of public comments. If you have a comment, if you can't raise your hand, please wave your hand, give a thumbs up, send us a sign. I see Bruce.
Can you hear me?
There, now we can hear you. Okay.
Okay. I just have a couple of quick comments on the Penn Waste contract, things for consideration. I definitely believe that we need to go out competitive bidding. Penn Waste has gone through some upheavals lately, and I think we need to go with an RFP on that. If we need to do a one-year extension in order to give us time to do that, but I think long-term we need to be thinking about going to an RFP process to get competitive bids. Secondly, I personally and my neighbors also found the yard waste pickup by Penn Waste very helpful, and I hope that that would be a continuation for this one-year extension to have the Saturday morning yard waste pickup process. And another thing to consider, since we have these enormous recycling bins and not much recycling material anymore, maybe a way to save some money would be to have the recycling truck only come down the street every other week instead of every week. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Bruce. Julie, there's two more.
Okay, so Beth Kazicki.
Hi, I had a question. Mr. Schultz mentioned the streetscape meeting on Friday from 1 to 3. Is that an in-person or a Zoom? It doesn't say on the website which it would be.
All right, that is a Zoom meeting.
A Zoom meeting? Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thanks. And one more hand is up. Two more. Oh, and Bruce is back up again.
Nope, I'm not. That wasn't me.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll lower your hand, Bruce. Android, I can't read the rest of that. You're on.
Okay, my name's Stacy Rack, and I actually had a question about the veterans medallions. I currently already have one for my dad that I've just been hoping to get put on the columbarium. So at what point do you think that will be possible, and how do I go about doing that now that the cemetery rules are going to be adjusted?
Well, can I ask you, is the medallion, I mean, is it from the Veterans Administration, or is it a small medallion?
Yes, it is.
Oh, good. Yep. Then I would suggest contacting the borough manager well, I guess right now, since we don't have a director of public works, maybe Frank, would you prefer that call to come to you so you could coordinate it?
If Stacy, if you can call Bill Albright, who's our receptionist.
Okay.
I think once we get the paperwork back from our solicitor, we'll be in a position to do that. But Bill will reach out to either me or to our public works lead right now to make sure that that's accomplished at a time that's good for you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
And also, just to let you know, I don't know, the materials that Public Works uses for those medallions. So throughout the year, there may be timeframes in which it's just not suitable to attach based on the temperature or the humidity or whatever. So just keep that in mind as well.
Okay.
Thanks, Stacy.
Jennifer Hoover.
Good evening, everyone. I previously expressed some comments about the proposed fund policy, maybe back a few meetings ago in the Finance Committee, and I intend to submit an email with those questions. I appreciate the policy and the intent and trying to provide a concise, easy to read document, not only for council, but for residents. I'm concerned that the brevity of the policy, though, might not safeguard taxpayers sufficiently, meaning there's no cap, as was mentioned tonight, nor does it indicate if there's a limit regarding when or how council could raise taxes if necessary. So again, I'll submit those in email, but I would appreciate some consideration and response to that email. Thank you.
I don't see anyone else waving.
Lee, really quickly before we get off, I'm sorry to do this, but the last ad hoc zoning committee we had was in person, but there was a Zoom link for the public. And I heard Richard say this one's in person, but will there be a Zoom link for the public?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And you figured out a way to make the microphone better so they can hear us, right?
I'm gonna send a link for a microphone that we'll buy. I'll order it from Amazon or something. It's only $20 and it'll be here and it's really good.
Thank you.
So we'll have that so people can hear. Julie, I'll send you that tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, sorry, Lee.
Nope, no worries. Okay, Erin.
If that is all we have for tonight, then I move to adjourn.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month. Although probably before then.
Goodbye.